What if I told you that in 1935, a young man walked into a hotel room and vanished from existence, only to be found days later, tortured beyond recognition, whispering with his dying breath that nobody had heard him? Welcome to SherlockMode. January 2nd, 1935. Kansas City, Missouri. The hotel president stands tall against a cold winter sky, its 15 floors casting long shadows over Baltimore Avenue. At 1:20 in the afternoon, a well-dressed young man approaches the front desk. He carries no luggage, just a black comb, a hairbrush, and toothpaste tucked in his coat pocket. His name, he tells the clerk, is Roland T. Owen from Los Angeles. But this is the first of many lies that will shroud this case in mystery. Owen requests something unusual, an interior room, several floors up, with no windows facing the street. Room 1046 on the 10th floor seems perfect. Bellboy Randolph Probst escorts Owen to his room. On the way up, Owen mentions he tried the Muehlebach Hotel first, but $5 a night was too expensive. Inside room 1046, Owen places his meager belongings on the bathroom sink. Then something strange happens. Both men leave the room, and the bellboy locks the door from the outside. Owen takes the key and leaves the hotel entirely. But where does he go? And why does he return looking nervous and afraid? Later that day, maid Mary Soptic enters room 1046 to clean. She finds Owen sitting in complete darkness, curtains drawn tight, with only a single dim lamp for light. Owen's behavior is bizarre. He combs his hair while she works, then puts on his coat to leave. But before going, he makes a chilling request. Leave the door unlocked, he tells her. I am expecting a friend in a few minutes. The maid later tells police that Owen seemed worried about something, maybe even afraid. At 4 p.m., Mary returns with fresh towels. The room is still eerily dark. Owen lies fully dressed on the bed, and on the writing desk, she spots a handwritten note. The note reads, Dawn, I will be back in 15 minutes. Wait, who is this mysterious Dawn? And why does Owen seem to be waiting for him in the shadows? As Mary cleans, the phone rings. Owen answers, speaking to someone he calls Dawn. His words are strange. I do not want to eat. I am not hungry. I just had breakfast. The next morning, January 3rd, Mary finds something impossible. The door is locked from the outside, but Owen is inside the room. How can this be? The locks at the hotel president can only be operated from the outside. If Owen locked himself in, he would be trapped. Someone else has locked him inside. Later that day, Mary hears something that makes her blood run cold. Two men arguing loudly inside room 1046. One voice is rough, threatening. When she knocks with towels, the rough voice shouts, We do not need any towels. She hurries away, but the arguing continues into the night. Other guests report hearing both male and female voices from the 10th floor, talking loud, cursing, creating a disturbance that echoes through the corridors. Around midnight, elevator operator Charles Blocher notices unusual activity. A woman arrives looking for room 1026, but she cannot find who she is looking for. Blocher describes her as a commercial woman, a polite way of saying she works the hotel with different men in different rooms. She leaves frustrated. But at 11 p.m. that same night, something even stranger happens. City worker Robert Lane is driving downtown when he sees a man running in the cold. The man wears only pants and an undershirt in the freezing January weather. Lane stops and offers him a ride. The man seems grateful but nervous. Lane will later identify this man as Roland T. Owen. But why was Owen running half-dressed through the streets? What was he running from? January 4th, 7 a.m. The hotel switchboard lights up. The phone in room 1046 is off the hook. Bellboy Randolph Probst is sent to investigate. Probst finds a Do Not Disturb sign hanging on the door. He knocks 3 times. No answer. Then he knocks again, harder. A voice from inside, low and gruff, says, Come in. Turn on the lights. But when Probst tries the door, it is locked. The voice does not sound like Owen. Probst waits, but no one comes to unlock the door. He shouts through the wood, Your telephone is off the hook. Still, no one opens the door. An hour and a half later, the phone is still off the hook. Another bellboy, Harold Pike, is sent up with a master key. Pike unlocks the door and steps into darkness. The room is pitch black, shades drawn tight. In the dim light from the hallway, he sees a figure on the bed. Owen lies naked on the bed, breathing heavily. There is a dark spot on the sheets that Pike assumes is a shadow. The telephone stand has been knocked over. Pike thinks Owen is drunk. He rights the telephone stand, hangs up the phone, and leaves without turning on the lights. He does not realize he is looking at a dying man. 2 hours pass. The phone goes off the hook again. At 11:03 a.m., Probst returns to room 1046 for the third time. He knocks. No answer. Using his master key, he opens the door and steps inside. What he sees will haunt him forever. Roland T. Owen kneels naked on the floor, just 2 feet from the door. His head is covered in blood, and he holds it in his hands like a broken man. When Probst turns on the lights, the full horror is revealed. Blood is splattered on the walls, on the bed, in the bathroom. This is a crime scene from hell. Probst runs downstairs screaming for help. The assistant manager calls the police and a doctor. Within minutes, they are racing up to the 10th floor. Dr. Harold Flanders arrives first. He finds Owen sitting on the edge of the bathtub, his legs sticking out. A clothesline rope is tied around his neck, wrists, and ankles. Owen has been stabbed multiple times in the chest. His lung is punctured. His skull is fractured from at least 3 blows to the head. He has been tortured for hours. Dr. Flanders cuts the ropes and asks the dying man, "Who did this to you?" Owen looks up with glazed eyes and whispers, "Nobody." "What caused these injuries?" the doctor asks. Owen replies, "I fell against the bathtub. But this is impossible. No one ties themselves up and stabs themselves repeatedly." "Did you try to kill yourself?" "No," Owen whispers. These are his last coherent words. He slips into a coma and dies shortly after midnight on January 5th. Police search room 1046 for clues. All of Owen's clothing and belongings are missing. Even the hotel's towels, soap, and shampoo have been taken. The only evidence left behind, a hairpin, a safety pin, an unsmoked cigarette, a small bottle of sulfuric acid, and a necktie label from New Jersey. One of the room's drinking glasses is broken in the sink, missing a jagged piece. Was this the weapon that crushed Owen's skull? On the telephone stand, detectives find 4 small fingerprints. They believe these belong to a woman. But whose woman? And where is she now? Police try to identify Roland T. Owen, but he does not exist. No one by that name lives in Los Angeles. The victim is a complete mystery. The body is taken to McGilley Memorial Funeral Home and put on public display. Thousands of people come to see the mysterious dead man, but no one knows who he is. Police plan to bury him in a potter's field for unknown bodies. But then, something extraordinary happens. A mysterious phone call changes everything. An anonymous male caller offers to pay for a proper burial. When asked about his connection to the case, he says something chilling. Owen had not played the game fair, the caller says. Cheaters usually get what is coming to them. Then he hangs up. $25 arrives at the funeral home to pay for the burial. But that is not all. A florist receives another mysterious order. 13 red roses are ordered for the funeral, with $5 payment and a card that reads, "Love forever, Louise." Who is Louise? On the day of the funeral, police detectives disguise themselves as pallbearers and funeral home employees. They wait to see who will come to pay their respects. But no one comes. The mysterious man is buried alone, with only his secrets and the beautiful roses from Louise. For months, police send photos and descriptions across the country. Missing person reports pour in from everywhere, but none match the mystery man. Then, in November 1936, almost 2 years after the murder, a woman in Birmingham, Alabama, sees a newspaper article about the perfect crime. Ruby Ogletree recognizes the photo immediately. The distinctive scar on the man's head is unmistakable. This is her son, 17-year-old Artemus Ogletree. Artemus had left home in April 1934 with his friend Joe Simpson to hitchhike to California. She had not seen him since, but she had been receiving letters. But here is where the case becomes truly terrifying. The letters Ruby received were sent after her son was already dead and buried. The first letter arrived in January 1935, just weeks after Artemus died. It was typewritten, which was strange because Artemis did not know how to type. The letter said he was going to New York City. In April, another typed letter claimed he was sailing to France, but Artemis was already dead in his grave. In August 1935, 8 months after the murder, Ruby received a phone call that lasted 45 minutes. A man claiming to be her son's friend. The caller said Artemis was in Cairo, Egypt, married to a wealthy woman. He could not write because he had lost his thumb saving the caller's life. Ruby was suspicious. She contacted the State Department, the American consulate in Cairo, and even wrote to President Franklin Roosevelt begging for help. Someone was deliberately deceiving her, keeping her from searching for her son. Someone who knew Artemis was dead and wanted to cover their tracks. Police now had a real identity, but they also had a real suspect. A man who had been with Artemis at other Kansas City hotels, using the name Don Kelso. In 1937, a brutal murder in New York City caught the attention of Kansas City police. A man had been shot, dismembered, and stuffed into a trunk. The killer was Joseph Ogden, also known as Joseph Martin. Among his many aliases was Donald Kelso, the same name from the Kansas City hotel registries. Kansas City detectives were convinced they had found their man. Ogden had a history of violence, had been in mental institutions, and used the right alias. But in 1950, the FBI reviewed the handwriting evidence. Their conclusion was devastating. The signatures did not match. Ogden was not the killer. The case went cold, but Ruby Ogletree never gave up. She had her own suspect, Joe Simpson, the friend who had left home with Artemis. Ruby spent years trying to meet with Joe Simpson. He stood her up multiple times, always making excuses, never wanting to talk about Artemis. Finally, on December 28, 1939, Ruby confronted Joe Simpson face to face. What he said made her blood run cold. Joe laughed when Ruby mentioned the perfect crime. "It is perfect," he said. "They will never get the ones who killed him. The ones, plural." Ruby looked Joe square in the eyes and told him she would recognize the voice that had called her from Memphis. Joe turned red, dropped his eyes, and became nervous. Joe promised to show Ruby a letter from Artemis, claiming it was badly typed. But Artemis never learned to type, and Joe never showed up with the letter. Ruby was convinced that Joe Simpson was the voice on the phone from Memphis, the same voice that had called her months after her son was tortured to death. But police never seriously investigated Joe Simpson. The case remained officially unsolved, and the truth died with those who knew it. In 2012, a Kansas City librarian received a mysterious phone call. Someone had found a shoebox in their deceased relative's attic. The box contained newspaper clippings about the Room 1046 murder and something else that tied the relative to the case. But when pressed for details, the caller hung up. Today, the hotel president still stands in Kansas City, now operating as the Hilton President. Room 1046 continues to welcome guests. But some say the room is haunted by the spirits of that terrible night in 1935. Guests report strange sounds, unexplained voices, and an overwhelming sense of dread. The rose from Louise still appears on Artemis Ogletree's grave every year on the anniversary of his death. Someone remembers. Someone knows the truth. Let us analyze what we know. A 17-year-old boy leaves home with his best friend to seek adventure in California. Months later, he is found tortured to death in a Kansas City hotel room, registered under a false name, waiting for someone called Don. His mother receives fake letters and phone calls after his death, designed to stop her from looking for him, someone with intimate knowledge of his life. The friend who left home with Artemis shows suspicious behavior when confronted, laughing about the perfect crime and mentioning multiple killers. Someone pays for Artemis's funeral anonymously, claiming he was a cheater who got what he deserved. Someone sends Rose's signed love forever, Louise. The evidence points to a conspiracy involving people who knew Artemis personally. His friend Joe Simpson fits the profile perfectly. But who is Louise? Could this be Joe Simpson's girlfriend or sister? Someone close enough to send roses but distant enough to avoid suspicion? The torture suggests this was personal. Artemis was beaten, stabbed, and strangled over several hours. This was not a robbery. This was revenge. Perhaps Artemis discovered something about his friend that he should not have known. Perhaps he threatened to expose a secret worth killing for. Or maybe Artemis fell in love with the wrong person, someone who belonged to Joe Simpson or his associates, someone named Louise. The fake letters and phone calls show a sophisticated plan to cover up the murder, someone intelligent enough to deceive a grieving mother for years. Joe Simpson had months to plan the perfect crime. He knew Artemis's family, his writing style, his plans, and his weaknesses. The use of multiple aliases, Roland T., Owen, Eugene K., Scott, Don Kelso, suggests a criminal network operating in Kansas City's underworld. Kansas City in 1935 was a wide-open town controlled by political boss Tom Pendergast. Crime was common, and perfect murders were possible. The Hotel President was the perfect location: transient guests, blocks that could only be operated from outside, and plenty of criminal activity. But the killers made one crucial mistake. They underestimated the love and determination of Ruby Ogletree, a mother who never stopped searching for truth. Her intuition about Joe Simpson was correct. His nervous behavior, his knowledge of the case details, and his cruel laughter gave him away. The mystery phone call to the Kansas City librarian in 2012 suggests that somewhere, evidence still exists. Someone's relative kept secrets in a shoebox. Could this relative have been Joe Simpson himself? Or Louise? Or someone else who knew the truth but took it to their grave? The annual roses on Artemis's grave suggest someone is still alive who cares about him. Someone who feels guilty about what happened. Perhaps Louise was forced to participate in the crime, threatened or coerced by Joe Simpson and his associates. Perhaps she sends roses out of guilt. Or maybe Louise was Joe Simpson's sister, part of the family that helped cover up the crime but now feels remorse in her old age. The evidence is circumstantial, but it all points in one direction. Joe Simpson killed his friend Artemis Ogletree with help from accomplices. The motive could have been money, jealousy, betrayal, or the discovery of criminal activity. The method was torture and murder disguised as a mystery. The cover-up was elaborate but not perfect. Ruby Ogletree's mother's intuition pierced through the deception to identify the real killer. But justice was denied. Joe Simpson died without confessing. Louise, whoever she was, took her secrets to the grave. The perfect crime remained perfect. Yet the truth has a way of surfacing. DNA evidence, cold case investigations, and deathbed confessions can still solve this mystery. Somewhere in Kansas City, Birmingham, or beyond, there may be descendants of Joe Simpson or Louise who know family secrets. The Hotel President still stands as a monument to this unsolved crime. Room 1046 still welcomes guests, but it will never escape its bloody past. Artemis Ogletree was just 17 years old when he was tortured to death. He deserves justice, even if it comes 90 years too late. The roses on his grave prove that someone remembers, someone cares, someone knows the truth about what happened in room 1046. Perhaps one day, the mystery caller will return with the contents of that shoebox. Perhaps Louise's descendants will find her diary or letters. Perhaps new technology will extract DNA from the evidence still stored in Kansas City police files, waiting for science to catch up with justice. Until then, the ghost of Artemis Ogletree haunts room 1046, waiting for someone to solve the perfect crime that was never quite perfect enough. The truth is out there, hidden in family secrets, buried in old attics, or locked away in the memories of those who were running out of time to confess. Joe Simpson thought he had committed the perfect crime, but he underestimated the power of a mother's love and the persistence of justice. Ruby Ogletree solved the case in her heart, even if the law could never prove it. She knew who killed her son, and she never stopped fighting for him. The murder in room 1046 was not perfect. It was just unsolved. There is a difference, and someday, someone will prove it. Artemis Ogletree left home seeking adventure and found only death. But his story lives on, inspiring new generations of investigators to seek the truth. Room 1046 stands as a reminder that some secrets are too dark to stay buried forever. The truth will surface. Justice will prevail. The perfect crime will be solved. If you enjoyed unraveling this mystery, like and subscribe to Sherlock Mode.